Lana Del Rey is one of the most fascinating artists of our generation. Yes, her music has been some of the best to come out of this century, and her grasp of American songwriting should literally be studied. But there's always been such commotion made about Lana's persona. One accusation I think that's dogged Lana for probably the longest time is that she's anti-feminist or that she's a bad role model for young girls. And there's a lot to unpack in those accusations because they've always really confused me. So here's part 2 of our Lana Del Rey deep dive. If Lana's known for her Americana imagery, then she's equally as known for her melancholy. Before she reached wider mainstream success after Norman fucking Rockwell, the most common response I got when I said I was a Lana Del Rey fan was, "Oh, isn't she that sad singer?" I mean, even one time my mum likened her music to funeral songs when I was playing her loudly in the bathroom, probably crying in the shower. And this melancholy seemed to strike a chord with both fans and critics alike. On one hand, fans like myself resonated with her overt sadness and her ability to put into words the emptiness and hopelessness that so many of us felt inside. I was pretty isolated and lonely as a kid, and I experienced a lot of big emotions, and I felt like no one understood me in the way that most queer kids felt in their early teenage years. And even though I wasn't living the life of Lana Del Rey, I was connected with the despair of her. But to the critics, this sadness and yearning was nothing more than an anti-feminist retrograding the movement back decades and inspiring young women to be powerless beings existing at the whims of men. Which almost seems like anti-feminist thing to say. Shouldn't women have the agency to express how they feel? Why is expressing your sadness of lost love working at the whims of men? Of course, lots of this anti-feminist rhetoric comes from a quote of hers back in July of 2014, when Lana told the Fader that, for me, the issue of feminism is just not an interesting concept, which is a really wild and funny thing to say, I get it, but it's also a very Lana Del Rey thing, because she also added that whenever people bring up feminism, I'm just like, God, I'm not that interested. My idea of true feminist is a woman who feels free enough to do whatever she wants. And there we go, the full quote in context. Lana isn't saying she's against the idea of feminism or that she's not a feminist. She's just saying that the concept of it in 2014 was not interesting to her. And to her, women should have the freedom to do whatever they want. Obviously, this still isn't the case, and women are restricted socially, financially, and physically. So of course, people trolled her for it, calling her naive and ignorant, and some outright saying that she's not a feminist. But we have to cast our minds back to what feminism actually looked like in the 2010s. It was a very Obama-era millennial self-empowerment girl boss feminism, where feminism was all about leaning in, being relentlessly positive, and having it all. There wasn't a time or inclination for fragility. Even musically, Lana Del Rey entered into a world that she did not belong in. We had songs like Born This Way, Raw, Rolling in the Deep, and of course, Who Run the World, Girls. These songs, although they're iconic, were all sending messages that women had to be in control of their lives, that they had to go out there and fight for their own destiny. Then in came Lana Del Rey with sweeping orchestral flourishes, crooning about an American ideal long gone, and deep, passionate, unrequited love that pushed her to a point of instability and despair. Her music wasn't necessarily going against the self-empowerment movement, it was just supplementing it with another type of experience. One that many women around the world have and still to this day relate to. Some women don't feel strong and they shouldn't have to. Some women don't want to or don't have the agency or ability to fight against all the patriarchal systems in their life. Feminism, as it is back in 2014, felt like the need to categorize all women into the same box, homogenizing all their experiences and showing how strong they are, and if they don't fit into that box, then they're not true feminists. It was very restrictive and sterile, so I don't necessarily blame Lana for saying that the concept of feminism at the time was boring to her. Looking back, Lana is a very large part, if not most of the reason why we have female artists openly singing about their melancholy, their sadness, and their despair. Olivia Rodrigo said that
Lana has raised an entire generation of music lovers and songwriters like me and taught them that there's beauty in their vulnerability and power in their melancholy. She never sacrificed her unique voice and perspective in a world and an industry that constantly tries to put people in a box. And if that doesn't make you a visionary, I truly don't know what does.
Billie Eilish said that Lana especially changed music for girls and the potential for what is possible. Taylor Swift said that despite Lana being
ruthlessly criticized in her early career, and then slowly but surely she turned into in my opinion, the most influential artist in pop.
In 2023, in an interview with The Times, Lana reflected on being called a fake feminist, saying, "I got dressed up for my shows while some folks didn't, and for some reason, that was a problem. I had books thrown at me in San Francisco by liberal female groups. I've been punched in the face in Brooklyn. 10 years ago, mentally, I badly needed some beauty to come out of the chaos, for something to make sense. I've been on guard for so long." And then in that goddamn Questions for the Culture letter, she said, "Let this be clear, I'm not a feminist, but there has to be a place in feminism for women who look and act like me. The kind of women who say no, but men hear yes. The kind of women who are slated mercilessly for being their authentic, delicate selves." And yes, it was a clunky post that people took to assume that Lana was being racist by naming some artists of color who had #1 hits. And I don't think she should have dragged anyone else into it, especially when it's easy for other people to misinterpret what she's actually saying. Women of color are always being told and held to a different standard and are expected to be picture perfect. So it was just never a good idea to bring them into this argument that Lana had with the critics and the culture at large, regardless of what her intention was. She later clarified that by women who look like me didn't mean white women. She said, "I'm sorry for the folks who can I only assume are super Trump/Pence supporters or hyper-liberals or flip-flopping headline-grabbing critics who can't read and want to make it a race war." When in fact, the issue was with female critics and female alternative artists who are disassociated from their own fragility and sexuality and berate more sexually liberated artists like myself and the women I mentioned. Nothing new here in your reaction, same as 10 years ago when a million think pieces came out about me feigning emotional fragility or lying about coming from no money when that was the truth. I still do think that Lana has a point about feminism though, and the conversation was immediately steered into Lana being racist for mentioning artists that she did look up to instead of the double standards in music and feminism in general was a very easy way to dismiss what she was saying. And while now people can look back and see the impact Lana's had on the music industry as a whole, critics of her would point to songs like "Fucked My Way Up to the Top" as basically evidence and reasons to discredit her. But if you actually listen to the song, it's not a step-by-step guide of sleeping your way through the industry. It's a clapback at the misogynistic people who owed her success to sleeping with music execs. Lana told Complex that the song was a commentary on those accusations, saying, "I know what you think of me, and I'm alluding to that. I have slept with a lot of guys in the industry, but none of them helped me get my record deals," which is annoying. Lana went a bit harder in an interview with Grazia magazine and said that it's about a singer who first sneered about my alleged not authentic style, but later stole and copied it. And now she's acting like I am the art project and she the true super artist. My God, and people actually believe her. She's successful. For years, fans believed that she was talking about Lorde, who said she didn't think Lana was a good example for young girls, going as far to say that she's unhealthy for them to listen to this sort of shirt-tugging, desperate, don't leave me stuff. That's not a good thing for young girls, even young people, to hear, she said. I take umbrage with that whole line of argument because when did Lana ever say that she was a role model for young women or wanted to be a child singer? She's not in the fucking Wiggles, okay? This isn't something that's just limited to Lana either. Female artists have long been held to the expectation that they must be the best role models for girls, as if all women must be upstanding citizens. Otherwise, they're tearing apart the centuries-long movement for women to have equal rights. And that's absurd, right? An artist who's currently facing this same takedown is Sabrina Carpenter, who's routinely called a bad example for young girls for her hypersexualization. But as Sabrina said, you guys are the ones listening to her sexual songs and making them popular, not her. Melancholy aside, the go-to criticism of Lana Del Rey is of course that she's glamorizing abuse. And listen, with lyrics like, you can see why and how people got there. Ultraviolence was evidence of what some critics have been trying to prove since Lana's debut, that she's an anti-feminist, industry-manufactured fraud, and that she should have no place in music or the culture. Critics argued that Lana's music was filled with outdated anti-feminist ideas, and that she romanticizes everything from heartbreaking relationships to domestic abuse. Others did try to argue that Lana herself wasn't glorifying abuse, but rather she acted as an embodiment of the issues with post-feminism, saying that there's very little in contemporary culture in 2014 that encourages women to love themselves. and even less to love each other, and that love itself becomes a reward for being beautiful, successful, and for pleasing your lovers, which is obviously impossible to do all three at once. Which Daisy Lafarge says is the sacrifice that women in post-feminist age often suffer from. The choice between a social life and an exercise routine, between a career and a rich family life. The anti-feminist attacks on Lana then, according to Lafarge, are the epitome of the vicissitudes of mainstream media, where women must be immaculate as images without acknowledging the dishonesty of surface appearance. They must be everything at once, masculine and feminine, independent and vulnerable, successful and popular, all while presenting a unified, unconflicted, and pleasing appearance. The issue then is, why is Lana unhappy? She's successful, beautiful, and loved and adored by many. So as Lafarge says, the fault lies with a culture that insists she should be. Rather than believe the post-feminist myth which has failed us, we should instead refocus our agenda on the cultivation of self-love and love for women threatened by violence, for whom the line, "This is ultraviolence, I can hear the sirens," is a daily reality. I think there's a need in life to make things black and white, that doing X means you're doing Y. If you're singing about abuse, you're promoting or endorsing it. But Lana's not fetishizing or glamorizing it. She's describing how she experienced abuse. Even the music video is rather subdued and nuanced. It's just Lana walking solo through a garden in a wedding dress and veil, holding a gorge bouquet of flowers. There's one moment where the person behind the camera puts their fingers in Lana's mouth, but we don't see any glamorization of abuse. She ends the music video walking down the aisle of an empty church and kneeling at the altar. To me, I think it adds a heartbreak to the song, because this woman who once wanted to be married is now in a violent situation and trying to make sense of it. And who's to say what Lana is singing about isn't also incredibly relatable to other women? Does this mean that they aren't feminists too? Are they glamorizing their own abuse by listening to this? Do they not get to be protected by the sisterhood of feminists? Who are these critics to police how women perceive and process their abuse? In a Grazia interview, Lana said that ultraviolence was about a cult leader she met as a member of an underground group in New York. I used to be a member of an underground sect which was reigned by a guru. He surrounded himself with young girls. He thought that he had to break people first to build them up again. At the end, I quit the sect. It's believed that the sect she's talking about is an Alcoholic Anonymous group in New York, which was known for their cult-like behavior and bad treatment of young women, which also feeds into the fan theory that the song is also about Lana's alcoholism that she suffered through as a teenager. The Jim in question who's hitting her could mean both an abusive man, the cult leader, or Jim Beam, the alcohol. And I get it. Absolutely no one wants to glamorize or endorse abuse, but to put that onto Lana for singing about her own experiences is pretty wild. I really doubt that Lana ever sought to glamorize abuse, as if she'd want droves of her young fans walking into abusive relationships, especially when there are countless male artists who quite literally glamorize and sing about abusing women, and they still have their careers. Even the ones who physically have abused women. During the great Lust for Life shift, which I speak about at length in the first part of our Lana deep dive, Lana changed the lyrics of Ultraviolence in 2017. She told Pitchfork that she now felt uncomfortable singing that line at shows. I don't like it, I don't sing it. I sing Ultraviolence, but I don't sing that line anymore. Having someone be aggressive in a relationship was the only relationship I knew. What's sad to me is that I think a lot of this criticism of Lana made her hesitate to really unpack what she did experience in her younger life. She reflects on some of this in A&W in Did You Know There's a Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard? When she reflects back on some of these experiences, saying, I mean, look at my hair, look at the length of it and the shape of my body. If I told you that I was raped, do you really think that anybody would think I didn't ask for it? I didn't ask for it. I won't testify. I already fucked up my story. Which I think is such a devastating consequence to the reaction Lana received early in her career and the way that people reacted to her persona and music. But again, I think it's deeply unfeminist to hold female artists to a standard where they have to be safe for kids. Why? Because they're meant to be seen as some maternal figure? Shouldn't we have greater representation of all types of women and their experiences? Whether they're safe for kids or if they're speaking about heavy issues like abuse, we should embrace all facets of the experience of being a woman. But as Lana said, this is the experience of being an American whore.